because of the extra drama that was going through and whatever the hell the case is. But yeah, so in this case, going back to the show, right? Um, that's one issue where nostalgia has literally rotted your brain, right? And you don't decide to play anything. On, you're just so stuck on your brand loyalty that you don't want to play or do anything else for fear of losing your own identity. Now, going to Nintendo, right? Because I'm going to get to the PlayStation people. No, I'm not trying to be a neutralist. I like my PlayStation. I bet your bitch ass don't have a Sony phone because I'm all Sony, but I'm not an idiot, and I'm not loyal to a brand that's going to treat me like shit. I guarantee you, the second that Sony really fucks up, that's the end of their ass. I don't live for a brand, but digression, right? So PlayStation for Nintendo, right? Nintendo's particular issue is that they, through nostalgia, believe in their head that no one can make a better game than Nintendo. So they've trained the human psyche is so amazing. They train their brain to accept anything Nintendo gives them. Because in their heart of hearts, Nintendo can't ever do anything wrong. Like ever. And so what happens is that a lot of the Nintendo fans, right, they will pick up a PC, they will pick up an Xbox, they will buy a PlayStation. But what they will do is that they will never be satisfied with what they had to offer, but will be satisfied for everything Nintendo has to offer. Doesn't that seem weird to you? Isn't that strange to you? That somebody could literally be so brainwashed that that's your mentality. That you can sit there and you can play Nintendo and say, I walked away. And I get that there's subjectivity. But for somebody who can sit there and say, I played Nintendo and walk away and say that Nintendo is just better than God of War, right? Or The Last of Us, or Horizon, or fucking any third-party game that came out. Everything, it's just better than that. Now, I don't think they'll be crazy enough to say some shit like that, but what they will say that, and this is how they kind of skirt around the situation. They'll say some shit like, I just like the charm of it. It's just something about it. There's just something about Mary. You know what I mean? Isn't that kind of weird? Or am I tripping? You know what I mean? Like, I'll see that shit and I feel like that's some weirdo shit to me. That's weird. It's weird to me when I see that. That's strange to me when I see people kind of behave in that fashion. It doesn't make any sense to me. And lastly, we're going to move over to people that like PlayStation, right? And these people are a strange bunch. Because I think a lot of the fans that are hardcore and loud came from the PlayStation 3. And they liked what Sony had to offer during those time frames. Or they took a faith leap and ended up buying the PlayStation 3. Realized that the online was free, right? So they didn't have to pay money on that. They liked the games that they were providing, because at that point in time, Sony, what they ended up doing is all the studios they acquired from the PlayStation 1 to 2 and some of 3 is that they told every developer that they had under their umbrella to split themselves into 2 different teams and throw everything at the wall and hope something stuck. That's what they were doing. So these people were in critical creative mode. They had to find something that leapt off the pages of their board meeting. The board meetings, whiteboard and papers. They had to find something that stuck. Something. And what they ended up settling upon was Resistance, Fall of Man, the Resistance. I'm just gonna say series, Resistance series, right? Okay, didn't really stick. The Infamous series that stuck a little bit. The Killzone series that served the purpose of showing what the PS3 could do, but didn't really stick, right? Uncharted that stuck. That's when they realized the niche that they were going in, and that is storytelling. I mean, for God's sakes, they do media, they do music and movies and shows, so why the hell not, right? Then they made The Last of Us, right? And then what other games did they do? Let me see. Hold on. Let me check my trophy list and take a look here. But you get the picture, right? And when my shit boots up, I'll continue on with that list. And you had really cool things. And one of the things that Microsoft actually incorporated, right, or made cool was shooters and online play. You know, that was the cool kid. So I know a lot of people were just like, well, Sony doesn't have any multiplayer games like that. And Sony made a lot of cool freaking multiplayer games back then. And the reason why is they had to be experimental. A lot of the stuff that they did was experimental, including PlayStation Home, right? So there was that. So they had that situation. And then that's when they, Mod Nation Racers, Little Big Planet, now that I'm thinking about it, right? Just anything that you can possibly think of. They were just throwing all sorts of shit on there. And for a time, they have all these innovations. Also, don't forget that people that like PlayStation tend to be more old school than not, right? PlayStation 3 started off the Souls franchises with Demon Souls, right? And so there's a place in their heart. But if you really look at them under a microscope, right, you'll realize God of War. I'm just looking at the shit as I'm going along. If you look at the typical Sony fan boy under a microscope, you'll realize something interesting about them. They only like one type of game. If it isn't a story-driven game that pulls at your heartstrings in one way or another, they're not about that shit. That's the end of it. That's the problem with them. I don't want to have any part of that shit. You can't have anything that's fun. You know what I mean? Unless it's riddled with nostalgia. You can't do that. So that's a no-go. Can't, and it's just kind of crazy when you think about it. So when Sony really wanted to kind of put their feet into different places, such as, Gravity Rush. Nope, they didn't want that. The Last Guardian. Nope, they didn't want that. It needed to look cinematic and it needed to be flashy. So they can run on the internet and say that this is the reason why I chose PlayStation. This is my confirmation bias. That's the problem with PlayStation fanboys. Confirmation bias. Little dick energy. That's the problem with them. They're so hell-bent on finding something with so much spectacle, and you need to have something emotional happen. That's part of the spectacle. And you need to look great, too. That's the other part of the spectacle. So they can run and create GIFs online or little clips online and say, oh my gosh, Uncle Ben died. Look at this. Oh, my gosh. Joe was killed. You're never going to find an experience like this. And the graphics. That's how they are. They don't want to do anything else. That's how PlayStation fans are. Not a damn thing else. Nothing. That's a problem. To me, that's a huge problem. It's a big problem. And then you see this specific issue right today. You can go on Twitter. If you have Twitter Spaces, you can go right and look at all the spaces that are there. Niggas arguing instead of playing games. That's what we're doing. Little dick energy, back and forth. That's what people do. They are so hell-bent on trying to be right that they screw themselves in the process, all because of brand loyalty, because you have some sort of nostalgic connection to whatever soulless entity, whatever it is, right? So that's one of the big issues with that one. Who is this? Microsoft layoffs. Okay, he did send it to me. I believe one of the little muscle things. Okay, cool. Now, going back to some of the stuff that I have in the thread here, is lack of convenience in terms of brand loyalty. Brand loyalty creates a certain level of inconvenience for consumers. Since brand loyalty customers will not accept any substitutes from their brand in the product category, this means that if the brand is sold out or otherwise unavailable from one store, the brand loyal customer will need to travel out his or her way to locate that brand from another source. That is something more along the lines of Nintendo. I've seen some crazy shit with them. I've seen some crazy shit with Nintendo. You know, what do you call those amiibos? I had a friend that was running around with these amiibos all around state, going across state to try to pick this stuff up because they just needed to have it, because they needed to rep their flag. I don't know what it is about people and thinking that these companies and entities really give a hell about them, but they just seem to really feel connected to these people. I don't know. It's kind of weird. It's kind of weird energy, if you ask me, when it comes to that shit. Man, it's not really much to say about that department. There's probably more Apple fans and stuff like that, right? And this is a gaming channel. And then tribalism. This is very important. This is the one I was saying earlier. Brand tribalism occurs when brand loyal customers begin to identify with fellow brand advocates to exclusion of other people. Gatekeeping, in other words, right? There's a lot of gatekeepers, especially on Sony side. I don't see gatekeeping on Xbox or Nintendo side, but I certainly see that shit on PlayStation, and I'm going to call them fuckers out like I normally would. There are some weird ones. There are some weirdos. These are the people that you can't criticize Sony at all, and you have to like everything from Sony, and I'm not the nigga to do that shit. I do not like The Last of Us. I do not like Naughty Dog. I do not like the woke shit. Call it whatever it is. If the name got warped over time, I don't like trying to forcefully exclude things or include things, being inclusive. I don't like that shit. I don't like it. Because again, that stifles creativity. If I have to create a product that I have to morph and contort to fit all these checkboxes, I need an LGBT character. I need a character that's not traditional. I need to have like these social elements that's in there and needs to be on this particular element of the political spectrum. I don't have time for that shit. Make the fucking game. Make the game and keep it moving. Keep it moving.